It matters because it's the only thing that makes sense. The problem with South Africa is that we are Stockholm Syndrome enough to mostly believe we can share our country with our colonizers. And why wouldn't we? 30 years of a Rainbow Nation propaganda. A democracy founded not on common peace and respect, but by something known as the Sunset Clause. The Sunset Clause itself requires a whole video on its own. The point is, post-apartheid, a deal was signed that assured the beneficiaries of colonialism and apartheid that they had nothing to worry about.
Africa, company based out of South Africa. I inherited like a 40% stake about 2.5 years ago.
I am a college student, but on the side, I sell pictures of my big toe.
How much money do you make a year as an heir?
I don't know, I'm worth roughly $300 million.
You're worth $300 million?
And yeah, I mean, an equity in the company, yeah.
I prefer not to say.
Can I guess?
Yes.
100,000?
Way more.
500,000?
Yes.
Where do you guys live?
Santa Monica.
Okay, do you rent or do you own?
I rent.
How much is rent in Santa Monica?
I'm paying $15,000 a month.
15,000?
Yeah.
You right on the water?
I'm on the promenade.
How much money is in your checking account right now?
I don't know, you want me to check?
Yeah, check. We're going right now.
7,326,000.
So what's the worst part about being an heir to a mining fortune?
Civil rights issues.
Yeah, we're just gonna skip the whole part about selling big toe pictures for $500,000 and get straight into the biggest issue of being an heir of an oil mine that came via colonialism is civil rights issues. Research over me search, go over to Google, type in South Africa mining issues. I hit the first link right there. South Africa mining gathering must confront human rights violation. Mining companies and their stakeholders, including investor governments and politicians, must confront the human rights abuses and rife in the industry. Amnesty International said that the world's biggest mining investment conference began in Cape Town. You know, facts over feelings. So you dig a little deeper, and this is what you'll find out. Is that the people of South Africa and everywhere else they have mines at, they get to have climate change and environment degradation at the expense of investors and heirs being able to get luxury vehicles. We see that the damage to the environment, oh man, you know who paid the cost for it. Individuals like him and Elon Musk can just inherit a whole mine or something like that, and they go to California and live their best lives. Meanwhile, the environment where the mine they inherited at, man, it's going bad. In conclusion, you see the obvious privilege it is for somebody just to be born where they born at, ain't gotta do nothing at all, just inherit something that was brought to you via colonial violence.
So when they say generational wealth doesn't transfer, they are lying, whoever they are. Gaslighting, so to speak. I have to work my ass off to earn what this beneficiary of colonialism is born into. An heir to a mining fortune equal to the middle class salary of 5 to 10 black families. And he knows it. His greatest problem is civil rights, as it was for his father and his father before, 400 years deep.
But I think that story is actually being very well told now, and by many much more eloquent than I. And there is an equally pressing point that comes with that, of course, which is that we do have the responsibility to ensure that we do produce these products in such a way that they are as sustainable as possible, environmentally, socially, and of course ethically. What is indeed rapidly changing today is the requirement for provenance. These are the issues that underpin, as we heard again earlier this morning, so like somebody had my speech, you know, the fact that the consumers are going to demand that the materials that they use are sourced ethically and appropriately in a sustainable fashion. And whether that's the iPhone that you buy, or whether that's a vehicle that you buy at a point of sale, or whether that's platinum or diamond jewelry, all of these are going to require some form of provenance, where people understand that what it is that they're using is properly done and properly sourced. Right, so what's next then, if that's not what the speech is all about? Well, in my 3 decades in this industry, I have learned that trying to predict exactly what the future is going to be is pretty much a mug's game. But I've also learned that we as an industry do have a role in shaping the outcomes of the industry and the world within which we live. How is that done? Well, here's where I'd like to focus my remarks this time. Of course, mining is an important cog in the global economy, but in reality, we are not amongst the titans of industry operating in the world's largest economies. So we're not a financial services, we're not a tech, a fast-moving consumer goods industry, we're not even an energy industry yet. But where we do move the needle, where we absolutely do move the needle, is in those countries that are home to our mineral resources.
Our resources. Who's our? Whose resources? There's no our resources here, there's only Africans.
And responsible mining companies in those jurisdictions, and nowhere more so than here on the African continent, are absolutely instrumental in the economic and social fabric of the societies of these countries. We saw it so very starkly here in South Africa at the outset of the pandemic early in 2020, when our industry made the compelling case for continuing our operations, not just in order to preserve the cash flow and income for our workforce, but more importantly, for the flow of the supply chains and the provision of so many desperately needed basic services in and around mine communities, from schools to hospitals, and from water to electricity supply. And just the following year, our industry facilitated a vaccine rollout on an unprecedented scale, supporting the government's own work and ultimately accelerating South Africa's immunity and emergence from lockdowns, all the while supporting the country's fiscus at the time that it really needed it the most. It was an enormous effort, an absolutely enormous effort that stemmed from a time of crisis. And it is a very proud example, I think, of government, of civil society, and of business all working together in very quick time to solve some of the most pressing human challenges. Now, looking just a little bit further back, the contribution of mining to the development of many Southern African economies is also a well-told story.
A colonial story they're running away from.
Botswana is probably the most incredible example, but Namibia and South Africa and many others are too. And I'm reminding us of all of this history because it is at the center of a window of opportunity today in which Africa's mining countries could actually accelerate their economic growth prospects even further. Recognizing that this world is now so short of the metals and minerals required for the energy transition, many of which actually sit under the African soil,
which belong to African people.
And knowing what we can actually achieve when mining and governments do work together in partnership and with mutual trust, surely then we have a duty to unlock and unblock the barriers to developing these mineral resources and maximizing the economic and social value that they can bring to society at large. Looking at Africa as a whole, this continent will account for over half of the world's population growth by 2050, when some of the population powerhouses elsewhere in the world are shrinking or slowing down materially.
Population collapse, say it loud.
And together with Africa's abundant mineral resources, I feel there's a golden opportunity here to achieve two goals at the same time.
For us, not you.
Firstly, bring about those much needed metals and minerals and bring them to the market to meet the demand that we all can see from this global energy transition and a growing and an urbanizing population. And secondly, to do so in a way that fulfills the economic promise of natural resources, which has all too often been squandered. It all sounds pretty simple, I guess. And we have all seen a version of this movie play out before. As the global mining industry and host governments navigate short-term political and economic pressures, we have to reflect quite urgently now, and honestly, on the current challenges that we have and how best to support African mining jurisdictions to benefit from the enduring value of these natural resources. This is a window of opportunity, and I keep referring to this window because it will too close, and we may miss it again, and that would be shame on us. So how can mining be more of a platform for a broader investment and growth platform? There is no better place to start than to reflect on the single biggest challenge of our time as human beings, and that is how to address climate change and the opportunity that that presents to leap forward through investment. Perhaps now more than ever, the need to meet the Paris Agreement's goal of limiting temperature rises across the globe to 1.5 degrees C is properly urgent. Without a step change in the global supply of many metals, this goal, to me, looks nigh on impossible. For Africa's many mining countries, the opportunity to simultaneously take their supply of metals and minerals to an entirely new level and use that economic momentum as a catalyst to attract investment in clean energy, which will undoubtedly drive accelerated economic growth, is just surely too good to miss out. This is a huge opportunity to accelerate African countries' economic growth through the untapped mineral resources coupled with the development of reliable and renewable energy. And it is so heartening to hear the messages from so many African leaders that Africa is open for business. The reality today is that power is still not available to more than 500 million Africans. Where there is electricity on the continent.
And these are the faces that benefit from Africa's resources, while the rest of us languish in poverty. I will be referring to the mining indaba throughout the year for context. The point is, these are the reasons why black investment matters. Because this type of imbalance, this type of generational wealth, can only be offset by the black pound, the black dollar, the enlightened African in the immediate front. Long term, however, it will take all of us to secure Africa. Africa's resources for Afros, because between Africa and the smartphone is the potential to elevate the black man and woman into prosperity, as our civil rights leaders prophesied. So who needs vibranium when you have resources like these? To solve Africa's problems, to fix South Africa's economy. Black-owned business in mining, black-owned business in processing, black-owned business in manufacturing. These are the investors we need. Black businessman, black businesswoman. It's a Game of Thrones out here. Comment your thoughts below. Let me know what you think. If you enjoyed the video, smash the thumbs up. Let the algorithm know it's good. If you haven't subscribed already, do that thing. And I'll see you on the next one, fam. Stay dangerous, stay royal.